What's up YouTube, Crafting Cars here, happy Tuesday. Now in today's video, we got a lot of catching up to do. So just to get you up to speed, last weekend I was out at a bachelor party for my buddy Gideon. We rented a nice log cabin up in Wisconsin on a nice lake with pontoon and everything like that. So that was fun, just hanging out with our buddies there. Now that I'm back home, I got some more parts to install on the Civic, of course. So I ended up picking up a pair of OEM Civic Si taillights. We're going to be throwing those on. I also want to get my manual steering rack mounted up, as well as finish mounting up like my brakes and my spindles and everything. And maybe if I get the chance, I could put the car back on the ground. So that'd be awesome. But yeah, we got a lot to do, so let's get right into it. Alright, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that little montage there, but now we're back home and it's time to install those Civic Si taillights I picked up. Now these are in pretty good shape, although one of the corner lights does have a crack in it, but I've just kind of toying around with the idea. I've been wanting them for a while, so finally came up on Facebook Marketplace, found a used set, so we're going to go ahead and install them and see what they look like. So here's what it turned out like, and I could put some respect on that. I like the way it looks. Alright, so back to the main goal. I want to get that steering rack put in today, so I got to put that spindle in the driver's side. I had yet to put this one in, so I'm going to bolt this thing up. Then, to get my rack all sized up, I got to get the old one out. So here I am, tackling my old subframe, pulling my power steering catch can out of there, all the fittings and everything. And I'll tell you what, it was quite the hassle getting this old power steering rack out of there. A lot of lines in the way, a lot of rusty bolts in the way, and yeah, it was not fun. But eventually, a little bit of cutting, a little bit of pulling, we got it out. I could not imagine how shitty this would be if I were to do this like underneath the car with the subframe not detached. It would be a real bad time. But eventually I figured out that the trick was to kind of smush the steering rack, kind of get it all the way to one lock. That would allow me to kind of wiggle it out the bottom. But yeah, that took a while for me to figure out. Alright, now it's time to set up my new steering rack. I go ahead and take the measurements off the old one. I think it came in around 53.5 inches. To keep that in mind when setting up my new one, I went ahead and ended up using the Hard Race tie rod end links. Those are super nice because they allow you to keep your kind of steering and suspension geometry close to stock even if you have a lowered vehicle. So yeah, highly recommend them. And I had like brand new hardware, brand new bushings and everything, so made the install very easy. Just wanted to make sure that I had the rack centered and I kept the distances the same, kept the number of threads on the inner tie rods exposed the same, and it didn't have to be perfect. I'm definitely no professional alignment shop here, but as long as we get it close, we can make adjustments later. So it's important to note that if you are setting one of these up and you're going from power steering to manual steering, you got to get one of these little white spacers here. Basically what that does is keeps this little rubber boot in the same exact spot as if you had the old power steering rack, just because with this new rack you don't have those hard lines and that extra space taken up. So mounting it in the car, you're also going to need a different U-joint. So basically want to get the universal joint that matches the rack you're putting in. So I'm using a universal joint from a 95 Civic, where this is a 97 Civic. So now if you got the rack centered and the steering wheel centered, you can go ahead and slip that U-joint into place, tighten everything back up. And another note is you're going to want to use a EG Civic bracket and bushing to attach this thing to the FCS subframe. So these hard race tie rod ends mount up with a tapered pin that feeds down through the spindle into a spherical bushing, and then the nut goes on just like a normal ball joint. Now that we got everything where we want it, we can go ahead and tighten up the U-joint underneath the steering column and give it a quick test just to make sure that the rack feels smooth and normal. So now at this point we can put on the rotors, the calipers, bolt everything up, hook up the brake lines, and tighten up the suspension, and that should pretty much wrap it up for the front end. Just kidding. I wish my life was that simple, but no, when we went to bolt up the wheel, we got a little contact between the caliper and the rim, so gonna have to make some changes. Alright guys, so unfortunately that's where we're gonna have to wrap up the video for today. I really did want to get the Civic lowered on the ground and pulled into the driveway, but unfortunately due to the fact that my rim there is rubbing on my brake caliper, that ain't gonna happen. What I'll probably do is just grind the face of that brake caliper a little bit to get them to clearance, and we should be good to go. But yeah, just gonna have to pick up next Tuesday, so that's all I got for you today, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye!